we were $40,000 in debt. It wasn't just that number. It was the fact that we had maxed out all our credit cards. We had literally no cash in the bank. There was kind of nowhere to turn. I didn't think to open more credit at the time. It was so scary. I mean, I was just so terrified.
Welcome back to the Time Freedom Podcast, where you can learn how to rethink your work and your money to create a life you love right now. Join us for insights to help you find meaningful freedom so you can choose how and when and with whom you work for as long as you want. Here are your hosts, me, Brian Harriott, and Kirby Dennison. Welcome to the Time Freedom Podcast. This week we have Pia Silva. She's an entrepreneur, author, and TED speaker who helps small branding agencies scale to $30,000 plus months while working less. She's the founder of No BS Agency Mastery and partner of Worst of All Design, a Brooklyn-based branding agency she runs with her husband, Steve Westerval. Her book, Badass Your Brand, The Impatient Entrepreneur's Guide to Turning Expertise into Profit, become a go-to resource for solopreneurs. Pia recently achieved a lifelong dream of performing as lead singer live on stage in a rock band. But she also has a new book coming out called Scale Solo. All right. I'm very excited to have with us today Pia Silva. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we're going to talk about a lot of fun things today, about how Pia lives with time freedom, and then also about her new book. And I want to spend a lot of time there also because Pia's been an author before. She's writing again. I'm writing for the first time. And so I have just, I'm sure I'll have questions about the process and things like that as well. So before we begin, I just want to know, I'm very excited to have you here. I've followed you probably since 2021, I would say. The interesting thing is, I'm not in marketing, branding, anything like that. And so it's always been this scenario of me seeing what you say for that target market and then applying it to my own situation, so much so that I even wrote about you in the book. But you've always been so gracious. Just recently, I know that you released the Seth Godin interview that you had done last year, and it actually got me. I started listening to his Akimbo podcast from a long time ago based on that, which is pretty cool.
Awesome.
So anyway,
tell him that.
Yeah. Oh, great. And so before we start, though, we'd like to, just to kind of keep it informal, is ask a unique question, which is, and we answer this too, which is, what is something, I know you said you're an open book, but what is something that few people know about you? And we can do the same. And then we'll get into the meaty topics.
Yeah. You know what? When you told me that a couple weeks ago, I was like, I'm going to have to really think about that because I really share so much. So here's what I came up with.
All right.
I think something that most people don't know about me is I'm actually quite messy. And I think most people would be very surprised because of how I do a lot of other things. And like, even my husband was like, he always tells me when we first met, he was so relieved when he found out I was messy because I don't seem, and he was like, oh, thank God. Okay, great. Now we can date. Because I kind of I come off as a very type A personality, like I would not be like that. So that was my thing. How's that?
So it's good. So you're cool. Like if you have a dinner party and you just can't deal with it, just leaving the dishes in the sink overnight and picking them up in the morning. You're cool with that?
No, not like that.
Oh. So are you really messy?
No, that's dirty. That's different. Dirty and messy are different. I'm saying like I cannot put my clothes back on the hanger. My clothes are all over the place. You know what I mean? Like there are piles of things that I'm constantly trying to fix, but I am also kind of like, it's just instinctual. I'm just dropping things and like, I don't care where I drop it. In a constant state of trying to put those things away and also just dropping them everywhere. So it's controlled chaos.
Love it. Yeah, I'm similar. I just have, I know where everything is, but it's not necessarily in the right place. But we do this with every episode.
So what? You have to reveal something new every episode?
Yeah.
It's getting hard and we're not very far in.
It's actually not that hard for me. I don't know why. Like I think of these things randomly and then I just write them down so I don't forget.
Tell me.
But one of the things that I always wished for, and maybe it will still happen sometime in my future, is I wish I had as a really good friend a professional comedian, because I always thought that it would be so fun to just constantly be laughing because the person's always making jokes and things like that. And I've actually had dreams where I was friends with those guys from Whose Line Is It Anyway? Have you ever seen that show?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, and it was just a riot. I loved it. It was the best dream ever. So that's kind of weird.
I love it.
How about you, Kirby?
If you do have funny friends, apparently you can burn a lot of calories. I was told by
Oh,
my husband that they could replace a workout if I would just laugh at him, but he's not very funny.
I
So,
love it.
oh, I was also going to say, Brent, most people don't know a lot about you because you're not on social media until recently.
True.
So when you're on social media, then things get out there.
Hmm.
Well, that was another thing about me is that, oh, this was the thing that was actually told. So, Pia, AJ.
Hmm.
Harper. We recorded with her yesterday, and she said that, and we were talking about the journey of authorship, and then Kirby piped in and said, "Oh yeah, when I was first working with Brian 2 years ago, he said he was never going to be on social media, and now, ta-da, here I am." So
It only took 2 years of
yeah,
cajoling.
exactly. All right, so let's dive in. I think one of the things that I like to do is if you could just give like some real quick demographics because it helps the listeners place, where you live and where you are in life and things like that. Would you mind sharing that with the listeners?
Sure. Sure. So I am located in Williamsburg, Greenpoint, Brooklyn, born and raised in Lower East Side of Manhattan. I have lived here my whole life. I have a 7-year-old son named Axel and a
Mm.
artist husband slash business partner slash adventure partner, Steve, who I have built these businesses with. How's that?
It's great. And what's weird is we've done about 7 of these so far, and I think we've had 3 New Yorkers
No.
on. Yeah, yeah, or maybe 4. Anyway, I have to look it up. I love it.
We decided we
Yeah.
needed more New Yorkers in our life.
I know because I'm born in the Midwest and live in California, so I just am not. I don't come
You
across New
should
York,
come
but
over here.
I know I definitely should. So let's dive in. One of the things that resonated with me when I first started listening to you is that you had made a comment somewhere, it's probably in one of your podcasts, on how you work so that you can live, right? It's not necessarily so that you can like become uber wealthy, although there's nothing against money. But and you described something called I think it was like the 50-25-25 rule. Can you talk about that? Because I think that totally it tells a lot about how you think about why work.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of interests outside of business, right? And I also I love to work hard and then to deep chill. Steve and I like to deep chill.
Oh, I like
So
that.
we got our business off the ground so that we could have autonomy, so that we could have,
Mhm.
control over our time and be able to do all the things that we wanted to do. Obviously, built a business in the beginning, not obviously, but I think most people, when they start their business, they think they're going to have one lifestyle. Then they realize that they don't. And we were working all the time for a long time. And after, we can talk about this more later, but after I kind of found a business model that really worked for us in terms of how we sell our services, we got really busy and we made a lot of money, but we were still working all the time because I was taking every single client. And it was then when I realized, okay, wait a second, we are making more money than we need,
Mhm.
which I'm kind of taking right now because I was so, you know, had like PTSD from not making enough money before.
Right.
So once the money starts coming in, you're like, oh, I'll just take every single client. So I thought, okay, we're making more than we need, but we don't have the space that we wanted. So I got to figure out like where I'm going to draw this boundary. And that was how I came up with this 50-25-25 rule to profit and freedom. So this is basically how it works. 50 represents 50% of your working hours are going to be dedicated to paying clients. That way, you have the other 50% of your working hours that you can split between 25% to biz dev and 25% to freedom time. And I thought, okay, if we were able to make all of our money in 2 weeks a month, then we would have the other 2 weeks to do all the other things that we wanted so that I could also market the business. I could, go develop my speaking. I could be writing my blogs and all of that. I needed to put that time into the calendar ahead of time because when we were working all the time with clients, there was no time to do that. So that's what it means. And once I got clear on the idea that I needed all of my revenue to come out of only 50% of my working hours, and I calculate this as 8-hour days, 5 days a week, 48 weeks a year. I do that because then there's this bonus extra 4 weeks
Yeah.
that you get, and because it's cleaner, right, for 4 weeks a month. And I figured, okay, so if I only have 2 weeks a month, that's essentially 24 weeks available to work with clients I think it's 1,920 hours. And now I can just compare those hours with how much money I want to make. So on the flip side, I had to say, well, how much money do we want to make? That year we made a lot of money. We brought in $500,000. We did not need $500,000. That was nice, but I wanted freedom time. So instead I said, well, let me add up. What are our personal expenses? What are our business expenses? Based on these personal expenses, how much in tax am I going to have to pay? And I added that on top, and I came up with, at the time, this has grown, but at the time it was $240,000. So then I said, okay, well, based on that, how much do I need to charge for my packages in order to make $240,000 in these 1,920 hours? And what it came down to was, I need to do one $10,000 one-day intensive that takes us a couple extra days to do, and I need to do 2 of those a month. And if I do that, I will be working less than 2 weeks a month with clients. I will make $240,000, and I will have 2 extra weeks to work on my business and have flex time. And it just brought so much clarity to me on how to run my business, how to price my projects. It created this goal. That was in December of 2024. I was charging $3,000 for that one day at the time. And the clarity that it brought me allowed me to look at that $3,000 one day and say, all right, my goal is for that to be $10,000. So I'm going to have to do some things to make it $10,000. I'm going to probably have to increase the value a bit. It took me 6 months. By July, we were charging $10,000 for that one day. And I think I got there so quickly because there was just so much clarity. I was like, this is what we sell. This is how much it costs. I know how much time on the high end it needs to take. And so I got there so quickly. And then all of a sudden it was like, well, what's next? We're making what we need. We have the time. And that's when I started to create other things for my business.
That's cool. And what's interesting is I heard you describe it as like in a month, I needed to work 2 weeks to have the other 2 weeks to do the other things. I had always, I've thought about it in terms of a year and working the 9 months so you can have the summer off. But the difference in how you describe it leads to the other thing that I picked up for you from the first time. So I had grown up under this idea of you need to develop passive income, right? If you can develop passive income, then the money works for you and you don't have to work. When I heard you the first time, that was the first time I ever heard of the idea of like, you still have to work, but if you just organize the work in such a way that you can kind of like chunk it into this 2-week period, then you can have those other 2 weeks off. And it was very revelatory. Is that a word?
Revelatory?
It was a revelation.
Yeah. Amazing.
For me. Yeah. Which was really cool. And also then I think it also then applies to many more people. And that's the connection that I made. Whereas I'm not in branding, but I could also organize my service in a way that allows me to chunk the work. So how did you get there? Yeah.
Well, it's so funny you say that because I'm telling you the origin story, but actually what I talk about now and what I evolved into is saying we should think in an annual basis and not on a monthly basis.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
I think the math is easier to understand if you think about it in a 4-week month, but truly that is the process I use to figure out what packages to offer and what's profitable. And then I let it go. And I say, this is just now, I know that this is profitable, but actually in the last, 7 or 8 years, I've very much taken entire summers off. I very much love to, I call it chunk and stack my projects. One year we literally did 5 weeks in a row of intensives, which is a lot to do in a row with no break. We banked $100,000 and then we went to Europe for 3 months. No clients, didn't need them. We were booking clients on the back end when we came home. We didn't even tell them we were away. We just said, our next opening is in September. And they thought we were like booked solid and we were, in Italy. So I'm all about thinking annually, but I think that the monthly helps
I love it.
Cement it.
I think as you're starting to like having it as a monthly is easier to grasp because it's a stepping stone to getting to that bigger picture.
Yeah.
Yes. And people are more used to it.
And you call it chunk and stack. I think I call it chunk and shift. It's so weird that chunk, maybe
really?
I heard you say that once. I wonder if I did.
Still in it.
I want to go back because I don't, it wasn't always this way. And I heard you talk about the PTSD from not making enough money. I know you've written about like being $40,000 in debt. And then this dinner that happened about, like, what if we just let the people go? Can you go back there for me? I just love these because we always know what we should do, but then you need like that moment that really crystallizes it before you change. And I always love to dig a little bit into those. Take me back there if you don't mind,
Yeah.
because I think some people would love to hear that and kind of how you got out of there.
Yeah. Well, so this was almost exactly 3 years into having built our agency, me and Steve, my husband's branding agency. And we actually, by that point, we had 2 full-time employees, had the office studio that I'm in right now. We had a lot of overhead. We also live in Brooklyn, so everything is expensive. And we were $40,000 in debt. It wasn't just that number; it was the fact that we had maxed out all our credit cards. We had literally no cash in the bank. There was kind of nowhere to turn. I didn't think to open more credit at the time. It was so scary. I mean, I was
That's
just so
good.
terrified. Yeah, yeah. Well, thank goodness, right? What do they say? The father of invention is
Well, necessity or
necessity is the
something.
father of
Yes,
invention. Yeah.
yes.
So I mean this was definitely that kind of moment. Clear. We had actually generated $250,000 in those 12 months. We just cost so much to run that we
Mhm.
were in debt. And so at that moment, I really thought that was the end. I don't know. I just thought, I was like, I don't know what to do. And the idea of like letting our employees go and it not being the end of our business, I can't tell you why. It was not even on my radar. To me, I had much more black and white thinking back then. It's like, I am on a path. I have this vision. I've got
Mhm.
this agency I'm building and it needs to be getting better every year. And the fact that I was in that situation, I think that's part of what just made me just completely fall apart and go like, "Oh, I've completely failed and I have to get a job." And my much more left-brained husband, right? My creative
Yeah.
thinker, he was like practically laughing at me and being like, "This doesn't mean our business is over. What are you talking about? We have all these happy clients, like our work is great, like we'll be fine. We just have to figure out a different way to do this." So we had to let the employees go, which was devastating to me. But he was like, "That doesn't mean our business is over." So he kind of got me to shake loose of this idea that it was either that or it was nothing. And
Mhm.
so then once I got loose from that, we started to look at our business. And that's when we saw the opportunity of something we had been like secretly selling that I was not even paying attention to and was actually the most profitable and easiest thing we could sell and deliver. And once we realized that, our whole business like completely shifted on a not a, I'm not going to say overnight, but like over weeks. It went from devastation to, oh my God, we could sell these left, right, and center. Like
Mhm.
I know so many people, everyone would buy this. And that's what happened. That's how we made so much money.
And that was the quick one product, the single product,
That
like
was, yep.
done in 2 days or whatever. Yeah. This is something that I think about. I've been fortunate in that I haven't been in debt like that. But I don't necessarily think that's all a good thing. And what I mean by that is like when you're in that position and then you work yourself out of it, I don't have that experience and then therefore the confidence that I can make it so. Do you like did that help you ultimately now to be like I can take on whatever? I'm just curious to ask the
Absolutely. I have been in much more debt since then.
oh, uh-huh.
Multiple times
Yeah.
because and every time the number is bigger, and let's be fair, the situation is different too, right? Like
Mhm.
in 19, right after my son was born, we have a baby. We moved into a very expensive apartment because we needed a 2-bedroom and it's expensive here. And also then all of a sudden I wanted a really nice apartment. High overhead. And I had this plan for our business. And I basically like we did not work with clients for 3 months to invest and bought a program and did all this stuff. And we ran up $100,000 bill like in months. I mean, now at that moment, we did have money in the bank somewhere. It wasn't in cash, but it was in it was in
Mhm.
retirement. It was money from my perspective that you don't touch that. It
Right.
felt like we didn't have any money, but I had a lot more confidence and belief in myself. I'm not saying it wasn't scary, but I had belief in myself that this is just a bigger number. I have a lot more skills now. And I also have a lot more confidence in my ability to make money and market and all of these things than I did when I was $40,000 in debt. So actually, it was much less scary then, to your point, because I'd already
Wow.
been there, because I already had gotten out of it. And so I feel like it's such a great point because I now do things on purpose to put myself in very uncomfortable and scary situations purely to build this muscle because I know it helps me get stronger.
Another lesson that I took from you, I'm just laying them all out here, was ultimate freedom, and how just having a large amount of money that you can draw on is one type of freedom, but the ability to just make money in a moment's notice, like, you take someone who's been uber successful and take all their money away very quickly, they could become rich again. That's true freedom, which I think is pretty cool. And I think, and also in so many like money books, because my book has an element of money in it, it's always just like invest, save and invest, grow your money that way. And for people that don't have that skill set and they're more like they're money makers, those money makers are just as free, perhaps even more free than the investing type. And that's just again, a change in thinking that I've had within the last 5 years.
That was in it. Thank you. I'm like so grateful that I was able to help you see that. I certainly had to experience that myself because I had that experience of, going from $40,000 in debt to having lots of money in the bank, more money than I had ever had before. And noticing in that moment, I didn't feel any less stressed. I mean, truly, like I was still totally stressed because it felt like, okay, yeah, but what if but what if this dries up?
What if the market crashes?
Yeah. Like this money could just completely disappear. And then so it took a while longer to build the confidence in my ability to like, I can make money and I know how to make money and deliver in all these different ways now that, when the pandemic hit and that was scary for everybody. And I certainly panicked in the beginning. Again, my sage husband, my artist, he was like, Pia, because I was like, there's going to be anarchy in the streets. It's The Road. You ever read The Road by McCormick? Like I was like picturing that happening. He was like, then we'll be the leader of our tribe. He was like, we have the skills. Then we'll figure something. He's like, and I was like, you're right. If that's happening, it's happening to everyone. And we're constantly building those skills so that it doesn't really matter because the most important and valuable thing that gives you safety is like what you are able to do yourself.
Yeah. I also have a spouse who's like the sage, wise one of the bunch of the two.
Travis is my voice of reason more often than not because I go in that spiral of like, or in the past have of, how are you going to get out of it? It's all or nothing. And I was just going to go back to the point that you said, Pia, about, you either are going to have the business or you're not. There was no in between of just letting the employees go. And I see that a lot with the clients that I work with because a lot of them are moms or dads. And from that family dynamic of, I want to be a mom and I want to be fully present and I want to do all these things, but I also want a successful business. And how does that coexist? So I love that you like kind of brought that together in your positioning of the, the 50, 25, 25.
Yeah, thank you.
So I definitely want to talk about your book. So let's do that.
Okay.
But to kind of get into it, I remember I'm telling you, like I was listening to you at a stage in my life that was quite, I was easily influenced. But I heard your interview with Mike Michalowicz, and I think you said in that interview that when you were writing your book, this one, that you had one of his books like on the table beside you, kind of using it as a model. Do you remember which one that was?
Yeah, it was Pumpkin Plan.
Pumpkin Plan. Yep. I thought it was because I then listened to that after that and got into the whole Mike Michalowicz world. And now he's publishing my book basically, because he's got a imprint with a hybrid publisher and that's who I'm publishing through.
Amazing. I don't even know if Profit First was out back then. I'd have to check, but Pumpkin Plan was very influential. Yeah.
Right. But well, I thought of that too, because you talk a lot about profit and how, you were making all that money, but had no profit. And then you had the cheaper offering that was much more profitable. So I knew that was highly influential. So anyway, it's been 9 years. I looked it up, right? 9 years between books. Tell me about what's happened. Like, tell me about this new book, of course, like who's the reader? What's your message? I think I'll have many a question based on what you tell me.
Well, so I published my first book in 2017, Badass Your Brand. Its intention was to get people to trust me, frankly. Like I wanted people to hire us as a branding agency and to help with strategy. And I wanted them to believe me so that I could do the best work for them because I always found that was the hard part. And so that was the intention. For years after I published it, I got a lot of feedback or requests. I got emails from people who ran branding agencies like ours asking us to tell them more about our model. Do you teach this model? Now, I mention our model in the book in passing. I don't really explain anything about it. It's just kind of part of my story because that book was for service-based businesses and experts because that's who my branding agency serviced. When you found me, as you said in the beginning, it's like all in on branding agencies. That's because in 2021 I actually did a VIP day with Carolyn Herforth, a coach friend of mine. She said, "What do you have that nobody else?" I was kind of like, "Okay, I've gotten here, and I'm kind of feeling a little like uninspired." And she said, "What do you have that nobody else has?" And I said, "This intensives model, the way that we run our business, like I don't see anyone else doing that." And so we realized like, oh, that is such an opportunity, you know?
Uh-huh.
So I deleted 10,000 people off my email list. I went all in on branding agencies in
Mm.
2021 so I could teach this model in great depth. And I did it for branding agencies because it felt like I could get super granular on dissecting this process and it would be most helpful. And I liked the idea of being able to be so specific. And it's been an amazing ride because I've been able to, I've had hundreds of students in my program in the last 5 years, but when they bring situations, I'm like, seen it, done it. I'll tell you exactly, oh, did they do this? I can read them. I've seen it all. It feels like I know exactly what's
Yep.
happening. So it allows me to be super, super helpful. And I know that my students appreciate that. So that's a long-winded way of saying in the last year, I felt like it was time. It was kind of always my goal to bring this model back to the service-based business expert world. And so my next book is taking everything that I have, all the additional value that I've gleaned from teaching this model, and actually finding out that just because I was teaching it to branding agencies didn't mean that everyone was going to do it exactly my way. In fact, I got to see how you could apply it in so many different ways. And that allowed me to see, wow, you really can apply this to any service business. And I've also had some tangential service businesses like IT consultants and PR companies like get into my program, even though we kind of told them, they were like,
Oh,
nope,
really?
this applies. And I was like, okay, just be very clear. Like you're going to have to apply it. And
Mhm.
I've had, handfuls of people come in and say, yes, I'll apply it. So I've watched people apply it. So this book is me now taking all of the details and everything I've learned from teaching it and sharing the whole no BS business model, how to sell high value premium services at a premium price in the most stripped down, simple way so that you're not like looking at a laundry list of things to do. You're not feeling like, oh my God, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And how to do it all without needing online authority and content. Don't get me
Oh,
wrong. I think there's a lot of value in content and authority, but I don't think it is needed to build a highly profitable business. I know because when we did $500,000, we had no content, no social
oh,
media, nothing.
Mm.
We had like a email list of just people I had met in person that we sent an email to like twice a month. So that was it. And so that's what this book is about. It's dissecting the whole.
that's cool. And I like that's a difference, the authority piece not being in there, because that was like one of the three main pieces of your model, right?
Well, I call it authority still, but it's like referral engine authority, like how to
Okay.
have authority in the world, how to build a referral machine, how to show up as an authority. I think authority is a big piece of it, but the content
Oh,
machine is not, it's not necessary.
well, that's interesting because I
Yeah.
remember initially when I learned about the model, that was the one
Hmm.
I was most reticent about, like I
I
mentioned
know.
earlier, right? And then someone like, oh, instead of doing social media, you could just do book speaking. That
Mhm.
could be another way to do
Yeah.
authority. I'm like, oh, that's a nice idea. So that's the route that I took. But then I came back to social media anyway.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'll be the first to say that authority content is incredibly valuable and will build a long-term sustainable business. I think everybody should do it, but I don't think it's the first thing anybody should do.
Mm,
And after 5 years of teaching it in such depth, what I've found over and over again is that half the people don't want to do it. So it's a kicking and screaming thing. And
Mhm.
the other half do it too quickly. And so they're trying to build authority without enough reps and without enough like having their hands in the weeds so that they could have actually built some authority, and it distracts them from doing the thing that's actually getting them business. So actually what you need to do is really lean into the referral marketing, rich relationships, like the building of an ecosystem and a pipeline and a process that you're constantly filling your pipeline with leads. And then And then absolutely go into authority content. There's lots of ways to do it, but don't do it first because I think it will just drive you crazy and you won't get the results that you're looking for.
I heard you say rich relationships. That's another connection that we have too, obviously.
Yes.
So Sue.
Yes, I know. That's why it rolls off my tongue.
Good. Yeah. How are you approaching the writing and or marketing and or just book production process differently this time than the first time?
Yeah, I mean, this time I have experience and I have resources. So I actually wrote the book very similarly. I'll tell you, I tried to use AI to help me. I did. I spoke into, do you know the Plod? Plod is like this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I took the Plod out on many a walk trip and spoke for hours, just brain dumping every story, every idea. And I thought, great, I'm going to just get it all in here. And then AI is going to help me tighten it up and put it into it. And then I struggled wrangling all this stuff for about 6 weeks. And then I said, all right, pushed it aside, opened a new document, and I just wrote it from beginning to end. And I am not exaggerating. It like poured out of me. Like I was so ready to write this book. I wrote it in about 6 weeks. I would wake up. I gave myself permission to just work when I would wake up. And I'm an early riser already, but I was waking up at like 3:30, 4 o'clock. And I would just go down to our lobby. There's like a little work area in the lobby of our building. And I would like write from like 4 to 8 and then go up and start my day because I was like, I just need the time. I just need to get it out. And so I wrote it really, really quickly. And now I am trying to do this big book launch. I want as many people as possible to get it in their hands. I think it's going to be I hope it's going to be so impactful to so many people. And I mean, I have really big goals, very stretch goals. And I'm trying to just kind of use this as another opportunity to build that muscle of, this is really scary. It's really scary to have to ask people for things, to ask for support. It's really scary to put yourself out there on this bigger platform. I think people look at me, they think I'm not scared. Like, I'm freaking terrified. I'm just doing it anyway because I'm used to doing things that I'm terrified about, but that does not mean I'm not scared. I am very much scared. I'm scared I'm not going to hit my goals, even though I made goals I can't almost possibly hit. So that's what's going on inside this brain right now.
Wow, that's awesome. I can tell you're proud of the book. I mean, I'm proud of my own book too. And what I've heard is when you're proud of the book, you're more willing to just get out there and do it. Right. So that's incredible. That's really
Thank
great.
you.
What are you doing specifically around marketing? Like, do you have like one or two, three things that these are the things that I'm really working on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to get on people's podcasts. I'm going into communities and doing like talks about like, the concepts of the book. I'm doing a virtual launch party on February 18th to do some bulk book buys. I am scared to say that I'm going to try to get on the USA bestsellers list, which means you got to sell like 6,000 books. So I'm going to be doing this whole bulk book launch for that. I'm having a big, fabulous party in person on the day that it launches.
That's awesome. What's the title, and is there any backstory behind the title?
Yeah. So the title is Scale Solo. For experts who want to charge more, deliver faster, and cut the BS. And that is, that's really the model. How you deliver faster, charge more, and it's all by cutting the BS. Scale Solo actually came from another business coach of mine, Tori Bosch, who I just got on a catch-up call with her, and I was like going all around with all these titles, and I was having a really hard time loving any of them. And at the end of our call, she just said it. And I was like, oh, yes. I was like, I think you just named my book. I was like, I'm going to have to think about that. And then a couple days later, I was like, you did, Tony. You totally just named my book. Just like that.
I had that same experience. I was talking to Trina White at Page 2, and I was just telling her about it, talking, using a lot of words. And then she's like, stop, go back. What did you say? Time Freedom? Yeah.
Time Freedom is a great title. I can't believe nobody's used that.
That's what I thought too. And also when you say it to someone, they kind of know what you're talking about, which is good. So you don't have to get over that. The question I like to ask is, in knowing how you plan and things like that, I bet you've thought of it. No foul and harm or foul if you haven't. Where are you in 10 years? What's your 10-year, 2036? Oh my God.
Is that even
50,
a year?
I turn 50 tomorrow.
I'm pretty sure my oldest kid will graduate then.
I will be 60. I'll have a 24-year-old. Our kids are,
wow.
My kid's a little older than yours, Pia, I think. But like, do you ever think about like,
how old's your kid?
My kid is 14 and a half.
Yeah. Mine's 7.
So
Okay.
my
Slow
oldest is
down.
18 or 18, born in 2018, and my
Oh, okay.
middle is in 2020. So right in the
Oh,
middle.
so you have a 7-year-old too?
Yes,
Because mine was born
and a
best
COVID
age.
baby.
So
Yes.
10 years, they're
Best age.
graduating high school. You guys have high
Don't
school
even.
graduates.
That's not
It's
happening.
terrible.
It's
It's
very different when they get in high
terrible.
school.
Oh, man. Um, no, don't say that, Brian. Shh, shh, shh. Not listening. Not
It's
listening.
totally dependent on the individual kid. It really
Right.
is.
Listen, we just did annual planning with my community, and I do an annual planning 2-day with Steve like the week before. So I do a lot of visioning in that. And I used to do the BHAG, like the
Mhm.
big, hairy, audacious, like and I stopped doing that because
Mhm.
I was like, I didn't even think, like, there are things that happened this year that were not even a possibility to me. Like, I had Seth Godin at my retreat a year ago today. That would have been unfathomable.
You
So
didn't plan for that.
I didn't even dream of that. When my coaches said, I said, who should we have at the retreat? And they said Seth Godin. I laughed and they were like, oh, you need to ask him. I was like, he's not going to say yes. That's crazy. They were like, oh, now you really need. I mean, they practically goaded me into it. And then he did. So
Wow.
I'm saying it's very hard for me to go to. So what we do is we do 3 years into the
Mhm.
future. So, but I have like an idea. I would say my ultimate goal, and I'm working towards this, is that I have enough time freedom and
Mhm.
flexibility that I am able to be investing in and helping lots of entrepreneurs with their businesses. Like, that's always been my goal. I love helping other people make their businesses thrive. I would love to be able to be investing money into it to help them
Mhm.
and my expertise. I invested a lot in in one of my best friend's businesses. And so I've already started that with her. And I would just like to be doing that with so many more people, and all of that feeling very expansive as opposed to like more work. It feels like, ooh, there's just so many places I can like put all of this knowledge and this money that I've made to like make it grow for other people too. So that's
Beautiful.
kind of the vision.
That's great. And as part of that, you're basically creating a group of people that you want to hang out with, that,
Exactly.
you know,
Mhm.
that's what it's all about. I feel like who cares what you end up doing, but if you can somehow figure out a way to craft this thing that gets all these wonderful people and you laugh and hang out with comedians and whatever you want to do, that's how it
Totally.
goes. Well, wonderful. So, please tell our listeners where they can get this book, where else they can find you.
What I would really love is anyone who's like interested in hearing this book. If you're really interested, you could go to nobsmastery.com/book and sign up to be on the early reader list. I'm really looking for support of people who who this is really resonant with and want to get an early PDF copy and read it so that when it comes out, they're willing to write a review, because reviews are one of the most important things when it comes
Uh-huh.
to getting a book out there. And so I'll say that, nobsmastery.com/book. And then the other thing I can just offer that I also think would be valuable for, I guess, those who don't like to read full books, is that I put together this playbook, which is like the Scale Solo playbook. So it's kind of the very, very cliff notes of this in a not terribly short, but not terribly long either, playbook PDF. So that's at nobsmastery.com/playbook.
Cool. And then after, if this is listened to after the book comes
Yeah.
out, of course, it's be
Well,
sold everywhere
now
else.
that I said that, yes, it'll be everywhere and those links will still be live. They'll probably just not say early reader anymore.
Awesome.
Cool.
And
Thank
when
you
is
for
your book
asking.
published?
It is coming out on March 3rd,
March 3rd.
2026.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful conversation. I'm so glad we had a chance to do it. Thanks for coming.
Me too. Thank you so much for your thoughtful questions. And this has been a really beautiful conversation. Appreciate you.
What a great conversation with Pia. I've just started recently following her, so hearing some of her concepts firsthand and how they've helped you and how they've impacted you throughout your journey was really an interesting perspective. I love the 50-25-25 like format, and also looking at it on a 4-week base and then kind of expanding it out to a year. We've talked about it before of, the seasonal schedule, or I have one other client that works 3 weeks on, 1 week off type of a thing. But to really think about it from a product standpoint and like, okay, this is what I need to charge if this is how many hours I want to work was different for me. I hadn't heard it that way before. So I thought that was an interesting perspective. And to know that she had been in debt and then every time that it's happened again, it's been a bigger amount, was also interesting for me.
But a different perspective, because once
Hmm.
you work yourself out of it one time, then you're like, I can do this.
Yeah, the whole confidence in yourself piece is huge.
Well, and that's one of the one thing that stuck with me from a long time ago. I can't believe it's been 5 years since I've been following her, but the concept of true freedom is the ability to make money on a moment's notice.
Hmm.
And I think when you know that you can do that, it's much easier to take on some additional investment in yourself. I'm sure the debt that she was in was not debt because she was, buying Maseratis or anything like that. She was investing in her business.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and the other big thing, which is again something that was huge for me 5 years ago, but for someone that's maybe new to this space, I had always thought the only way to, make money while not working was passive income.
Mm.
And way back then when I learned that, passive income really isn't passive, it's just front end work that you then, make income on later. But it's harder to do, and you have to trust that what you're building is actually going to produce something, and it's much easier and straightforward to just structure your work in a way that allows it to start and end, and then you can go take a couple weeks off. I had never thought of that before, and it forms the foundation of time freedom and seasonal schedules and why you have a lifestyle business. Like that concept flows all through time freedom.
Hmm.
And so I was really fun to be able to talk to the source, at least the source of how I learned about it.
Yes. Well, and backing into what her, I just was thinking of the time freedom formula the whole time she was talking. And like you said, she can turn the income on anytime she wants. Obviously, she's a moneymaker, but also
Yep.
going to the lifestyle side where she's like, we could have done it on 240,000 instead of 500,000. And just knowing your numbers and really how important that is from a business standpoint. So,
Well, great. Well, let's put a wrap on another really great episode. So just remind all our listeners to please go out there and like and subscribe. And also now if you go to timefreedombook.com, you can pre-order my book, and I have a special deal for you. If you put in the promo code podcast, you can order one book and you get the free audiobook immediately sent to you. So why would you not want to do that? Definitely go out there and check it out at timefreedombook.com. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week.